Greetings, Dr. Jeffrey Scott. This is my Market MRI Pro update for Thursday, December 4th, 2025. Title this one, Small Caps Lead Again as the markets await the PCE. It's been an interesting week. Jobs surprised to the downside. Well, I guess jobless came in a little bit better than expected. Um, I think everybody's very confused about this data, having the big gaps over the last several months with the shutdown. What's the impact of the immigration? And tomorrow we get September, I think, PCE, and kind of talk about being late to the game. But if there's a three handle, I think the markets will not be happy. Anything less than that, I think we probably will be fine. Right now, after hours, big winners rubric up 15%, Cooper up 12%, Alta up 6.4, AGX down 10.9, HPE down 9%, and Sentinel 1 down 9% as well. Futures are actually higher. Bitcoin's up just a teeny bit. Dow's up 35 points as I do this. NASDAQ 76, S&P 11. E-mini Russells are flat, and gold's down about 9 points. These have been extremely volatile, and with PCE, I would not count on where they're going to be in the morning based upon where they are right now. Again, my name is Jeffrey Scott, Market MRI Pro at gmail.com, Google Groups Top Down Trader, and website marketmripro.com. So a couple of housekeeping. For those that own the product, I put a video in last night on Top Down Trader about how to switch to the Windows Store version. We've got 2 weeks to get everybody moved, and then everything's going to be deployed through the Windows Store. If you don't see the video, reach out to me. If you've had issues getting it done with the video, reach out to Praveen. We'll have those emails again at the end before we hang up. The other housekeeping is when the users ask me, how do I make that 12 chart grid with stocks in my timing model? It's so easy. Anybody can do it. And I'll do a second video tonight. We'll paste it in the Top Down Trader group for folks who want to figure that out and do it themselves. Um, and if you are one of the new Metastock owners of my tools, welcome to the family. Um, I'm going to use a different product today. It's called Market MRI Pro. It is got a lot of things in it that I could do custom because I control the app. But there's lots of reasons to love the Metastock toolkit, and got a roadmap where we're going to probably create a second add-on for Metastock that will bring the rest of the functionality in, specifically the real-time screener, which I'll call out. Um, the charting tools, exactly the same, whether using Metastock, TradingView, TradeStation, or the app. And so it's okay to watch the video because it's about how I trade and what I think the market's going to do, and not about one platform or another. That's your choice. My job is to make sure if you got my tools, you know how to use them. All right. As always, this is for educational purposes only. Anything I talk about should be taken in the spirit of education, not investment advice. Really, the intent of the video is to demonstrate my tools of top-down analysis and how I use them. Trading involves risk. You and your owner are solely responsible. I'm a owner, intend to buy or sell anything I talk about in this report. Trading stocks and options should be considered risky. You should consult with your financial advisor before making trades. I've got tools in multiple platforms. I'm independent, and I trade the same way no matter what platform I'm in. Um, Join my Google group. Just go to Google Groups, all groups, look for Top Down Trader, and let us know how you want to be contacted. And you totally control your membership. You can pull out anytime you want. Hopefully, you'll see value. It's where I like to communicate. And I'm looking at dates right now. I'm going to plan on doing one of my 3-hour educational events that I'll invite everybody to in the Top Down Trader group. It's really designed for the owners of the program, but everybody's welcome to attend. Um, and I always enjoy those, and we review the markets. We look at how I pick options and what I do. For those that follow me regularly, it was funny. I had a question about performance and how I've done with my tools when I was doing the Metastock video. And I hemmed and hawed because I know it's pretty visible company, and so I basically deflected the question, but I think the tools provide value, and what they're really good for is finding market turns and how to capitalize them. And I think many of you have seen that this year. This is a chart of a leaders index from June. It's holding, and it's holding above the 50. It was up zero point 0.2, I think, today. As long as this thing is staying above the 50, I don't see a point in giving up on this market. Obviously, we have a lot of other things we're going to look at today, but I suspect that this will die either at the time the market dies or before, and it will be sort of a, canary in the coal mine, perhaps, of what the larger markets are doing. Know your news and earnings. As I mentioned, we've got a very late PCE report from September coming out tomorrow morning. Um, Consumer sentiment for December. What is the sentiment? Um, I hear all these bad things, but people are still buying. And I think if sentiment comes in with a big miss, that is not good for the markets. Hopefully, it'll come in close and got some credit. From an earnings perspective, not much left this week. Victoria's Secret, important because one of their leaders lives right down the block from me, nice guy. I'm sure he'll be watching that. It's a judgment call to hold stocks over earnings dates. It's bad judgment to not know when your stock's earnings date is scheduled. All right. Black Friday special will continue until I turn off the link sometime Friday night into Saturday morning. I already turned off the link for the other product offering we had because I had limited numbers to sell and they're done. 14.95, which does include the 4.95 for the first year. So it's 14.95 for year one, and it'll be 4.95 for subsequent. If you're interested, just reach out to me. I'll send you the link, unless you got the link from the weekend event we did last week, which still will work. On the Metastock, I had a couple of inquiries from current users. Is there anything in Metastock that I can't do today in Market MRI Pro? And the answer is yes. That's why I'm so excited about Metastock. First of all, it's got streaming, and although I have real-time quotes, we don't enable streaming. Not at the price that we charge. Doesn't it would be a much higher price point, and then we'd also have to deal with the concept potentially of pro and non-pro. But as part of your membership to Metastock, you have either delayed or real-time streaming quotes, so that's important. And the other thing that I love about Metastock is it opens up the Australian markets, the Indian markets, because many of the different tools, the broker platforms in the U.S. probably don't do a good job about ex-U.S. equities. The outside educators, and then from my perspective, the charting tools are exactly the same. Um, and what they can do that I can't do in Market MRI Pro is the explorations with trend line bounces and breaks, and I think that's pretty exciting as well. Complimentary, and right now, if you are interested in the Metastock, reach out to me, marketmripro@gmail.com. I'll give you the phone number and email contact of my person inside Metastock Sales who will hook you up. And if I remember correctly, during this period of time, you have a 30-day return, and they'll give you data during that period of time at no charge. So let me know. And for more information about any of my trading techniques, the software, any questions whatsoever, marketmripro@gmail.com. And any issues with the program at coding@marketmripro.com. Whether or not you noticed or not, when we turned on the new product, we noticed one day we noticed that there was some speed issues. So Praveen upgraded servers, increased the power behind the program, and boy is it zippy now. I'm so excited by that. And we'll continue to upgrade as needed. It's kind of the more users that come in, the more we're going to have to upgrade servers, but the more revenue we have to pay for it. So I always want to keep ahead of the number so that we keep the program working well. And I think everybody who's been around since the beginning understands the genius known as Praveen, who's really built it with my ideas, his ideas too, but a lot of my ideas. And his technology expertise, which is phenomenal. And maybe next year we'll get to see in Florida at the live meeting. So looking at the daily briefing, you could see the Russell led up 0.88, finishing right in the top, near the top of its range. The dollar rallied up 21 cents. The spider was up 0.07 or 0.21% on the dollar. Spider was up 0.07%. Excuse me. The diamonds and Qs were modestly lower, minimally lower. Bitcoin gave back a little bit after a couple day rally, and volatility was down a bit. Now, what's interesting, despite the fact that the major indices outside the Russell don't look so hot or so bad, frankly, the new high, new lows on the new highs minus new lows at 52 weeks on the NYSE and the NASDAQ both look a little bit better tonight. Um, if you look at some of the other breadth tools, the color ones represent today, the white yesterday. So across these three major indexes, the sectors and industry groups were a little bit weaker. So that's one thing different. Yesterday was a pretty strong day, and you could see 45% of the stocks were up in the S&P 1500, 58 in the Nasdaq, and 46 in NYSE. So breadth was kind of neutral. Um, if we look at the S&P 500 sectors, again, nothing had a big move. Nothing was over 1%. Kind of feels like they're waiting for that PCE. 0.57 on communications, 5.2 on industrials, 4.2 on energy, and then tech at 0.37. And to the downside, healthcare, which has had a rough couple of days, is now down 2.85. In the last 5 days was down 0.76. But you can see over the last 50 days or 2 months has been the leader. Materials 0.58 and staples 0.48. Even though a lot of YouTubers have been calling for a major correction, and we have seen those Hindenburg omens, but we don't trade that signal. We raise awareness and concerns with that signal and wait for the charts to confirm, which they have not. And despite all the doom and gloom, certain people in the YouTube are talking about, the markets held up remarkably well. We did mention earlier in the week that the quantitative tightening that the Fed was doing is done for now. And I think many of us would be very surprised if the Fed does not cut next week on Wednesday. After that, who knows what's going to happen? We're waiting for the data. Um, but it was a decent day in the market. Categories that were working, you could see cannabis was up. Who cares? Uranium was up 5.5. Uh, artificial intelligence 3.86. Clean tech 3.44, and then it drops down to 1.91 on robotics. MLPs were up 1.68, as was blockchain and telecommunications. So a nice day in the markets. My portfolio now is probably geared towards small caps, so it was a nice day. But I think rather than seeing that big sell-off, what we're seeing is pretty significant rotation, 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 rotation. Look at the timing model. Is this a hanging man? I don't know. Who cares? It's up. Even though it came off the highs, it was up on the day. All of the major indices that I look at, the spiders, the Qs, the diamonds, and the Russell, closed above that trend line that was the breakout. Do you see anything bearish there? You got a little bit of a spinning top maybe forming here on the diamonds. Nothing really jumps out at me that has me concerned. Yes, we have the Hindenburg omens. Yes, we have the Fed risk. Yes, we have the PCE. But if I look down here on the buy sell line, all of these are still in a buy mode. If I look at the weekly, I can tell you already, they're all in a buy mode. So long term, intermediate, well, long term is the monthly, and it's in a buy mode as well. It's getting kind of ripe here on the Qs, almost going straight up. So at some point, we're going to sell off. And frankly, at some point, we probably have a recession. Maybe it happens second quarter next year. But right now, long term, intermediate, and short term say go long. Um, right now, I'm leaning long. Those Hindenburgs, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, keep me tempered. And I still have a cash position because, frankly, I want to maintain my performance numbers that I've showed you a week ago that were still pretty damn good for the year, excuse my French. If I look at the US index ETFs, I don't think we'll see any difference in the last couple of days. Let's look at the first one. Here's the same picture on the S&P. Notice seasonality is positive. I've got the 17-day in green, the 21 EMA in that light blue. I got the 50 in white, and I got the 100 in purple, the 200 in red. We got lots of support underneath this price. First line in the sand is this trend line, and we're well above it. So I'm still bullish. The spiders, that could change quickly, but right now, no. If I look at the Qs, I'm going to see the same exact story. So why spend any time talking about it? As we get deeper into December and go towards the new year, the seasonality starts to flatten out some. So, but that doesn't mean it goes down. Um, Qs didn't do much today. They were down 0.1%, but a pause to refresh, and today was not a big volume day. So kind of a pause day. And again, I think the markets were relatively quiet because we got a big data point. And if we look at the diamonds here, you could see um, all these things are 1% or 1 to 2% off their all-time highs. Not much happened today in the diamonds. Again, low volume day. So I'm not too worried about the market short term. I am worried about the data, and that PCE is we'll see. My guess is it comes in with a two handle. The markets go higher into Wednesday's Fed meeting. Russell breaking out. In fact, um, I didn't think to look at that. Let's put a horizontal line on the close, and folks, we have. It looks like to me with a close of 251.85, close here of 250.30, close here of 250.33, and a close here of 245. I think we have an all-time high close on the Russell. It is not quite an all-time high. It looks like it didn't get as high as this bar, but bango, bingo, bongo. All-time highs tend to go higher. So Russell, strength. How about volatility? We would hope it's coming back down to that resting zone, and it's slowly getting there. It's still above. That's kind of where it was resting here, but this was where um, we were rocking and rolling. And if we look at the dollar, we already showed you the dollar had a little bit of strength today. It's interesting where it bounced. I just love technical analysis. It pulled on to the 50 and it bounced. Again, as much as this looks like the dollar's moving and maybe we should be worried about it, not really. It's well off the highs. It broke down out of this trending channel it was in. So dollar right now, I think, is neutral, not going to be impacting us too much. Maybe commodities, but right now, if we take a look at commodities, gold and silver, which have been fantastic. Gold looks like it was up a bit, 0.06 today after a little bit of a pullback. Um, you know, just draw it now. There's my line. I take out about that. I probably want to go back into gold, and it's just kind of a cup and a handle. Another handle and a breakout. It's just a big cup and a handle waiting for the breakout. Gold's trading lower right now, but looks interesting. Silver, boy, talk about a freight train. So silver already set new highs. A little bit of a pullback here. We'll see how far it pulls back. Um, did not get the same recent pullback or extent that we saw in gold. Oil still trapped in this triangle wedge thing. It's got lots of resistance above. Boy, seems to me like it wants to break above, but like I said, there's lots of resistance there. Natural gas has done well. I hate to say that word with natural gas because it was dead to me for so long, but it's still well off its highs, and the question will be, can it break above the 200 or not? I hope so because I've bought a couple of natural gas plays, not the commodity, but rather um, companies that are doing more natural gas than they're doing oil. If we look at the 10-year and the 30-year, things that I like to track, 10-year popped above the 50, was up in the session 1.26%, closing at 4.11. And I think the positive jobless claims being um, less concerning than anticipated. Um, Maybe that popped up rates a bit, and you can see the 30-year popped up as well, 0.78. Still well below the 5% range where I get nervous. If I look at the buckets, no signals. Clearly, stocks are moving to the right, which means they're getting more bullish, but not to the point of extension where I would expect anything to happen. On the market breadth, is this a megaphone formation on the NYSE? Kind of looks like it to me. And as I said the other day, if we come back down to this level, it's going to be kind of painful. But the other thing to wonder about is this is our fourth or fifth attempt at this level, and we've failed to break out. And so I guess my expectation is either megaphone or quadruple, quintuple top. We probably turn down from here. We'll see. NASDAQ moving up as well, but not close to the previous highs. Look at this. We are right off, if not at all-time highs on the NYSE. Let's look at this. I have to put my glasses on for this one. Close here today was 21,805.41, 21,824, 21,835, my bad. 21,835, 21,824. So all-time high day is still here, but I think we had an all-time high close on the NYSE today. That's kind of cool, isn't it? Does that negate the Hindenburgs? Um, Again, I said the volume was not anything impressive today. Stocks above the major moving averages continue to go up, but when you look at where the extreme days were, they're still below those extreme days. So no signal, it just shows a strengthening market. You could see here, new high, new lows were positive for both NASDAQ and NYSE. Um, AD lines, interestingly, negative a bit on the NYSE on a day that it's getting close to, if not setting an all-time closing high. That's bizarre. And the up-down volume are positive. Here is the Hindenburg Omens. When you get a cluster, you typically get a more significant sell-off. So I'm not willing to ignore those, but with no evidence of a market breakdown and three time frames still in a buy signal and the moving averages setting up nicely, I gotta see a reason to start getting rid of my positions. Am I more cash than I might normally have at this point? Maybe. And maybe it's the Hindenburgs, but keeps me aware, keeps me acknowledging, but I'm still long this market. Um, I don't have any short positions unless they're in a butterfly or a vertical where there's one short leg and one long leg. If we look at the other market breadth tool, and really the critical thing here is this green nut, which is a 13-week 0.78, 0.79, 0.86, and 0.74. We're at 96 when we pull back a little bit beginning of the week. Um, I think we're good. Um, I don't, I mean, I was trying to figure out if we've got a positive divergence or convergence on the spider, because this does look like a higher high on the AD line. And we're not quite to a higher high on the spider, although I should go back and look at that because it looks like it's getting there. Um, but I think I see positive stuff here. Let's go back to those index ETFs. I saw it on the NYSE and I saw it on the Russell. To be honest, I didn't even think about looking on the spiders. And that's because closing high here is above where we're at. So we are so close to new highs on the S&P, at least closing highs. Again, it's hard to short all-time highs. I talk too much. I apologize. I just love the markets. It's like a disease. If we look at the JAS layout, let's just go into the top-down perspective. We've got 3,752 stocks again. That's weird. Typically, the number changes some. Um, but that would be stocks Amex, NYSE, NASDAQ at $1 minimum and 100,000. If we look at what moved the most today percentage-wise, we're going to have industrials, tech, and energy. If we then do the same ranking on the industry groups in those three sectors, we got electric, specialty business, it's probably Salesforce Uranium, 4, 5. All right, we'll go through that. So these would be the top 10 industry groups in the top three sectors, yielding 299 stocks. Let's drop a filter requiring 5 and 500,000 shares. That's just my minimums for trading. Now I get 163. People ask, is that a hard minimum? No. If I see the perfect chart and a story I like, I'll cheat. And I'll go lower than my minimums. It's just not very often. Pull back in an uptrend. We'll add that filter that gets us down to 29. Let's look at the positive impulses and let's just see if there's anything that looks interesting. Woodward Energy. Um, I think, well, even before I say what I think, I mentioned this the other day. Key stock timing. So if you look at the mags, Amazon looks ugly today. Apple's in a great uptrend. Google's in a great uptrend. Meta has been trading lower. Short term moved up some. Netflix looks horrible, even though seasonality is supposed to get better. Tesla poised to break out to all-time highs. Nvidia still pulling back, although it was up today. Microsoft, maybe the weakest of the bunch, although Netflix is pretty weak looking too. And then biotech. Today, in the beginning, my LABU was down some, and I was disappointed because I read a news thing this morning that said the government wants to reduce the number of studies necessary to approve a drug. That should have been a ring the cash register for biotech because small biotechs don't have the money to do the studies they need. And it was up today nicely. Pharma, on the other hand, is pulling back. Um, Data center, as I mentioned yesterday, turned positive, moved up today, and we saw OKLO and GEV and some other data center plays starting to rally. These are things that have sold off recently. Speaking of recent sell-off, here it was on data centers, here it was on quantum computers. You look at qubits and you look at Rigetti and some of the others, they had a super strong session today. Let's go back to the JAS layout where I'm in the top-down analysis view. So WWD, if I remember correctly, is electric, and all you got to do is hover over it here. You'll get the story. Control solutions for aerospace and industrial markets. They have stuff in data centers. So it is one of the groups that benefits. My God, 1870, older than me. Um, has had a couple of nice quarters with surprises. It's looking at $1.61 versus $1.35, so that's 26 cents. So if there's no surprises, it's going to have 20% growth. Revenue, you can see the growth there. What did I like about it? Nice base. This was a big gap and a nice move. A little consolidation, looks like it's ready to run again. I think that one looks interesting. The next one is TTMI Technologies. What do they do? Manufacture, sale printed circuit boards. I bet there's lots of circuit boards in a data center. It says it right here. Very similar pattern to Woodward, breaking out here after a move up, a little consolidation. It's got volume breakout momentum, relative strength, and OBV look good. And is it extended? It is not. Prezzo, PRZO, another technology story. It's below the 50, so I'm less interested. Katos, Kratos Defense. This one had just a, well, you can see the earnings per share coming in at 14 versus 13. Not that exciting, but boy, look at the move this had. It's not had an equal sell-off. It looks like it's bottoming. Is it time to play? I'd rather clear the 50, but KTOS setting up. Uranium royalty, well, uranium was on fire. This is a cheap, cheap, cheap stock. UAVS, um, a drone company, if I remember correctly, and so small I don't have fundamentals. So just looking at this, clearly the things involved with data centers are starting to look interesting. SATL, satellite technology, and here's one of the quantum boys, Rigetti. Is it done going down? Should you jump in? Well, it certainly looks a lot better. The buy signal on the ETF is interesting. Boy, I'd love it if it was above the 50, but maybe you got to start nibbling down here. IONQ is another one, similar pattern. I had gotten stopped out of some of my stuff There's Woodward again. Not too long ago, I got stopped out of my qubits. D-Wave Computing, I call it qubits because I think that's what the ticker was. But those look interesting. Here it is, qubits. D-Wave, same pattern. I have to expect these things are going to be volatile. They don't make money. Um, God knows how long before they're actually in use, but they're already talking about quantum computing as sort of the alternative to the data centers and the AI modeling. So it's an interesting story. And oh, by the way, remember this little boy? Looks just like the quantum computings, but this is in the nuclear space and a company that's looking to bring some of these mini nuclear reactors and some of the services around the nuclear to the data center industry. This thing had a massive run. It pulled back pretty hard. We traded it a long time ago, participated in some of the run, but I didn't get the top. I was out up here. Is it ready to run again? Looks that way. So that's just some of how I look at top down. I don't want to find 100 stocks to buy. I found too many yesterday. It's confusing. I want a couple. So I'm looking at those data center stocks and they look interesting. Another way of looking at the market is just to run scans. So let's just kill this and let's go back to the impulse list. Here's your 3,752 and let me show you my favorite two scans, which I do every night. The A plus, my double momentum. This is also one of the scans inside of Metastock, and look how many stocks made the scan today. So let's go very quickly and see if anything looks good. AEVA, what does AEVA do? I just love this. I just have to put that there. Frequency modulate, continuous wave sensing technology, chip, electronics, health, automation, security. Okay, breaking out above the 50 and the 200. Really big volume has come in the last couple of days. The earnings are out. It does not make money. Um, has very little revenue. That's bad, but technically it looks interesting here. And look at the blue dots, including the magic double momentum dots, relative strength and OBV picking up, clearly not extended. I like it. Next one down is Dragonfly. Great name. What does it do? Unmanned aerial vehicles. That makes sense. Um, if you've watched any of the recent news stories about Ukraine and Russia and the war, it really looks interesting on the next version of wars that we'll fight with a lot of autonomous vehicles. They even showed an autonomous, I'll call it ambulance, although it didn't look like an ambulance. It was more open seating. But what the role of autonomous vehicles are going to be as we go forward. GALT, G-A-L-T, Galectin. This Siri just started talking about self-driving. Pretty nice move, but a really cheap stock. It looks great, but it's not a lot of dollars. KROS, Keros Therapeutics. Um, I am going tomorrow to what's called the American Society of Hematology meeting. And that meeting is a large blood cancer meeting. And then in the middle of the week, I'm going to flip from Orlando and go to San Antonio for the San Antonio breast cancer meeting. Both those meetings will have lots of data coming out and could be interesting for some companies. And look what this one treats. That's a pre-leukemia, another blood disorder. So maybe they've got some good disease data being presented. I don't know the company. I don't like this. Sometimes I have to make sure that that wasn't a split. It happened in November, so I might go back here and see if they had some bad data. Not only do we have fundamentals, we got news all included. And here, that was September. Ops revenue, upside in Keros as a stock. Let me move. Well, I'd probably want to, announces final results of tender offer at 1775. I'd read about it. Don't know anything about it. It's got the double momentum signal, and that's kind of why it's on my scan. Double momentum. Look at relative strength peaking up. Next one's Lunar, um, another UAV company, autonomous air vehicles. Um, Earnings are out, and what a big move this is have breaking out. Still a cheap stock. UiPath um, broke out. I think they had earnings yesterday, 12.3, 14% surprise. Pump Oil Services. Roivant, we looked at this the other day. I like this one here. It moved up here on data. It's consolidated. Um, I would go back here and look. It's another healthcare stock. Roadmap still underpriced. I'd read that article. All I would have to do is bump up and take a look. Autoimmune and rare disease drug programs, um, total addressable market. They'll talk about. That's good stuff. And after a sideways move and a breakout, looks interesting to me. There's your double momentum. This AEVA I liked a lot on this list. ROIV looks good too. Santa, kind of upsy and downsy. Here's a MLP. We know that they had a good date because I called them out on their performance. These guys, I always wonder if they pay a big dividend or not. And Targa pays only 1.57. It's going to have 234 against $1.44, which is great. Um, I don't think that these things don't move much. I have ET and I just hold it forever because it's got a great dividend. TSHI, another healthcare stock, biotech stock. Gene therapy, CNS disease, strategic partner. Um, Gene therapies, it's a cheap stock. I'm not interested. But gene therapies are the future, but at a cost of $2 or $3 million a patient, someone's going to have to figure out how to pay for it. Uranium stocks definitely in vogue. UEC, we saw one earlier. CCJ is the big boy or the big company. And if I had to buy one, I'd buy the best in class, and best in class is CCJ. WES, Western Midstream Partners, is another one of the MLPC. They're kind of sideways movers on a weekly chart. Sideways movers since it moved up in June. So let's just see what dividend this guy pays. This guy pays an 8.5% dividend. So, you look at the market ups and downs and the vicious rotations that we've been through over the last several months, and you look at the narrow range that this thing trades in, and you get an 8.5% dividend. I think in times of turbulence, people park their money here, um, get the dividend. And one thing that I've learned is that the MLPs have contracts. They're not tied as much to the fluctuation of the price. And then look at this, another one. WMB, let's look at this one. This one has a 3.5% dividend. So, do you have an MLP in your portfolio? I hate to look at mine. I haven't looked at it in a while. I kind of ignore this one. And it's pulled back some, but while it's pulling back a little bit, I'm collecting a 6.9% dividend. I've had this thing for years. If I look at it on a weekly chart, every once in a while it takes off. It's still, if you look at back where it started the year, it's had a nice move. Um, Long-term holding, I like the dividends. Maybe I should be in one of the others that has a better dividend. So, what have we seen tonight? We looked on the top down, we saw a couple things that looked interesting. And then with the A plus scan, the AEVA, the ROIV, maybe an MLP. And now I'm getting too many stocks to talk about, so I should shut up. Let's just run the A scan and see if anything pops up in here that's different. Um, there's your MLPs. There's your Roivant and your the KROS again. I just too far down for me. Um, And this is one I thought was going to pop this weekend. Is it the one? Oh, I'm on a weekly. Get off the weekly, dude. And I still think this thing's ready to run. FDMT. So there's a lot of stocks out there. Don't you love bull markets when the market's broadened? There's more choices. But remember the famous words, it's never different this time. And by that I mean we've had a bunch of Hindenburgs. We have had, um, you know, mixed signs on the economy. We're cutting. We've got the tariffs. At some point, this is going to end. But do we have a nice little rally for Santa? Stay tuned.